The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and happy Halloween. I am dressed in part of a costume because we're going to play a little game here this morning. Can you guess who Shannon is? Now, you know that every year that Nancy Alspaugh Jackson and I dress up together as sort of a joint or somehow commenting on each other costume. So I don't have all of the elements of my costume on yet. So during this hour, this next hour with Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet, you guys can be writing in and saying who you think I am. But you won't know until I put all the elements on when Nancy gets here, and we'll do the big reveal at the top of the next hour. But wait until you see our special guest and what she's dressed at. But I want to start by saying welcome to the show. We're going to be with you live for the next 2 hours talking about all things autism and hopefully having a little bit of fun. And we've got some great guests for you as well this morning. But we want you to interact with us here, and that's what makes things the most fun for us. I hope it makes it the most fun and informative for you. So we're going to show you some of the different ways that you can connect with us here. While you're looking at some of those ways on your screen, I want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. Now, I know that I've been promising you for 6 months that we are getting a retool on our website. Well, later on today, there will be a beta test that will begin of our new website. That will be happening later on today. But if you definitely want to be able to see it, you can check in tomorrow, and I'll tell you that that's going to be at beta, beta.autism-live.com. So it will absolutely be live tomorrow, and tomorrow our toy and gift guide for 2018 goes live on that site. And we added something to it this year because so many of you said last year you loved the guide, but then you had to go search for the toy and find a way to buy it. So wait till you see on the guide tomorrow. It's really cool. You can read all about the toy, and we tell you which award we gave it and which segment it's in. But there is a button for you to purchase. You click it and it takes you right to a site where you can purchase it from there. A lot of times it's Amazon or directly from the toy provider, but you're gonna love it. So that's all happening probably later on today, but definitely tomorrow, beta.autism-live.com. But in the meantime, and still tomorrow, you'll be able to go to our regular site, which is just autism-live.com. Still lots of things to do there. If you click on the triangle on the computer screen, it starts playing the live show or the most recently recorded live show. And there is a live feature to the side of it where if you put your cursor in the box that says your comment, all you have to do is type and hit enter, and it shows up on my screen. That's only going to be live, that particular chat, for about another week. You'll see that when the other site goes live, there is at the bottom of the screen a little chat button. And if you push the chat button, a little window opens up and you can type. And still same thing, except that it's easier for me to find it. Because on the new site, it shows me what the most recent comment is, not what the first comment is ever. So we absolutely love that. I'll be able to read your messages in real time. It's going to be really exciting. So either way, you're still going to be able to contact us free, and it doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to reveal who you are, and that's a wonderful thing. Okay, so I mentioned that we have great guests today. In just a second, we have Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet, and she's here to answer your questions. So please feel free to write in your questions on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever you want to, or on the live feature starting right now. I do have some questions from earlier. And then later on in the next hour, we have Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, where we will reveal what our couple costume is, our duo costume is, and then we've got some amazing, amazing guests, 2 authors, 2 books. It's going to be really exciting. I think you guys are going to love it. And we're going to look back on some previous Halloween things that we've done and even talk a little bit about how we get through this holiday plus the other holidays with our kiddos on the spectrum, wherever they are on the spectrum. But my friends, it is time right now for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen.
Welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is here with us. And take a look.
Today. Happy Halloween, everyone.
There are no words. This is the best costume ever. I have to tell you, I love the fact that at CARD, everybody goes all in.
Oh yeah,
and
we're very serious about Halloween here.
And you're the fearless leader of it. I think there's something about people who work with children that are so great with children that you are so willing to play.
Of course. You know, it's funny, I was thinking this morning when I was getting ready that it's just, we did this, you know, adamantly every year because of the kids, right? And now that we're at headquarters, which is completely separated from the kids, we don't see the kids unless we go to one of our clinics. We still dress up because, you know, it is all about it. It's the kids' holiday. At CARD, we are very serious about it. As, you know, all those centers have competitions and we have open house for the kids. And
I love it.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I love when new people come to work at CARD. And I the last couple of days, anytime I would ride in the elevator with any of the new people, I'd go, "Are you ready?"
Yep.
And they would go, "What? Ready for what?" And I would say to them, because you know, CARD takes Halloween. This is serious business
That's
at
right.
CARD.
That's right.
And they go, "Oh, okay." And they were like, "Oh, it's okay to dress up as in costume." And I would say, "Are you kidding me?" Like, not that you'll be picked on if you don't, because there are plenty of people who didn't wear
That's
a costume.
true.
But there was so much excitement on the floor today. People just squealing with delight at
It's
so many
fun.
different people.
Yes, it's quite fun.
But I gotta say, I think you win everything because
Thank you.
this is hilarious. Absolutely
It's a fun
hilarious.
costume, yeah.
It's a wonderful, wonderful costume, and gonna be so much fun asking questions with you. Answering them as Zoltar.
I know.
It's too fun.
Gonna be...
Okay, so I do like to tell people that despite the silliness, Dr. Grand-Pichet is, I believe, the preeminent expert in autism in our time. And really, is there any other time than now for autism? Because this is where it's happening. And she's been working in this field for a ridiculously long amount of time.
40
Is
years.
it 40 years?
Yes, 40 years.
We're really
yeah,
saying 40 years now.
Wonderful.
It is wonderful.
Yeah.
It is wonderful, and I'm glad that you look at it that way. And has been working with everyone from very small children up through senior citizens. So truly amazing. Plus, I don't highlight enough the fact that you were the founder of Autism Care and Treatment Today, which is to date given away, I believe, they've crested the 2 million mark now.
Yes.
$2 million worth of grants. You've done a lot of wonderful things in the community.
Thank you very
You
much.
donate
It's a
this
pleasure.
hour to be with us to ask, for people to ask questions. We do like to give the disclaimer, though, that no expert in this field or any other field of this nature could give individual specific advice in this format.
That's
because you'd have to have eyes on and be looking at behavior. So she won't be giving you individual specific advice, but if you write in our specific, you really get to talk to one of the brightest minds that there is about possibilities. She'll give you information that you can take back to the local expert who has eyes on the case and can tell you, you'll be more proficient in talking to them about what's going on.
Right. Thank
Okay,
you.
so our first question that I promised someone on YouTube that I would get to today. My son is 3 and autistic. He has started screaming, and I've tried videos and singing to replace that, but it happens so much throughout the day that it drives me crazy. And he's getting ready to start preschool, and I worry about him, how he's going to do as well.
Right.
So what can we tell this mom?
So, we have to figure out the function of the screaming, and it could be so many different things. And depending on what the function is, and the function is the reason for the screaming. There's always a reason. Now, it's really important for our viewers to remember that these types of challenging behaviors are not part of the symptoms of autism. They are not a symptom of autism. They're usually, these are things that kind of are a side effect in the sense that in most cases, challenging behaviors are a form of communication, and sometimes they're just a form of self-stimulatory behavior. So we're gonna give you some options that you can think about, unless you're live, in which case please write to us and tell us when this occurs. Like to determine the function of a behavior, you have to figure out when the behavior happens and look at the situations right before it and right after it. Like, what is evoking this behavior per se? So here are some options. A child could scream when they want access to something. So they want to get something like a tangible object, or and they can't reach it, so they'll scream in order to get your attention that they want it. A child could scream if they want to avoid a situation. So for instance, they don't want to work, you ask them to do something, and they'll scream in order to get away from the work. A child could scream because they just want your attention. So they're not getting attention, they scream, you go over there and panic and do whatever it is to try to get them to calm down, and that's the attention they want. Or, you know, aside from all of those standard sort of functions, a child could scream just because they like the sound of screaming, and they're playing, and that's a self-stimulatory type of thing where they're playing with the sound. So it's really important to identify which one of these it is, because if it's a self-stimulatory type of thing, like he's just screaming and there's no apparent reason and it seems like he's enjoying it, then you need to take away his ability to hear it, which means every time he screams, you got to put some headphones on or something where he's not able to play with that sound anymore. If he's screaming because he wants access to an object, you have to make sure he does not get access to the object when he screams, because that's not going to be what you don't want him to think it's effective to scream and get the object. If he screams in order to get outside or avoid the situation, you have to make sure he cannot avoid the situation. If he screams just to get attention, you have to make sure you don't give attention. Bottom line is, you have to make the screaming ineffective. And that's why it's so important to figure out what he is trying to accomplish by screaming. What is the function?
I'm kind of struck by, I know it's a little ridiculous, you're watching Dr. Grant Pichet.
I apologize. It's
Zoltar, but you know, part of me wants to have a ding and have you put out a card that has all the instructions. But it is sort of funny that, you know, you put a quarter into the Zoltar machine and you get something, right? Which is exactly what the transaction is with your child.
Absolutely.
That you know, your child is doing something, he's putting a quarter in you in hopes of getting a reaction, always, whatever it is.
Definitely.
And what he's discovered is if he puts the scream quarter into you, he gets something. And if you figure out what it is,
that's right,
and not give it then, because if you stand at the Zoltar machine and keep putting quarters in, and the Zoltar machine never gives you a card, eventually you'll go, this is broken, I'm gonna go on to another machine.
That's right.
And that's really what we want to do with our kids, is get them to put a different quarter in or a different machine in.
That's right.
So we don't give them what the expectation was.
Exactly.
And figuring it out what the expectation is can sometimes be hard, but sometimes it's relatively easy.
That's right.
And the thing that I love that you guys tell us is that when there is something that happens that's called an extinction burst, is when you stop giving them whatever the thing is that they were putting the quarter in, initially they'll stop doing it. But then all of a sudden it's like they upped their game.
Oh
so,
yeah, it'll be a major increase before it stops. It's kind of like the Zoltar experience you were saying. It's like, wait a minute, my quarter used to work before. I'm going to put 5 more quarters in there.
Right.
And then when they finally realize, nope, it's just not working anymore. they'll
Right,
stop.
exactly. But what happens to us as parents is when they start putting more quarters in, we go, oh, look, it's not working. But what was told to me and what I love is when you see that uptick, then you know you're exactly right. Then you know you just got to wait it out. You go, oh, I got it right. I just got to wait it out until this is over. And they exhaust themselves and then they move on.
That's right.
It's a brilliant, brilliant thing.
Absolutely. The extinction burst is so important because when you give in during the extinction burst, like when the child has now increased the screaming, and that's when you go give attention or give them what they want because you think things aren't working, you've now actually taught the child that louder screaming, excessive screaming is what's required.
Yeah.
So you've actually made the behavior worse without being aware of it. It's tough.
It is. It's really, really tough. And I know you say all the time to, get help if you need to when you're doing something that you're going to put something on extinction. That is what you're doing, is saying, I'm going to cut off the supply of whatever the reward is. I'm going to stop rewarding this behavior.
Right.
And that's a tough, tough thing. But I guarantee you that I've seen this work with my kid, and I've seen it work with a bunch of other kids. When you find the right thing and you cut off the supply, you're just a short distance away from your life being better.
Right.
And their life being better.
Absolutely.
I always tell the story about how the first time that I saw this was when my kid was hitting his head on the kitchen floor, and he would hit his head on, I would ask him to do something, and he would hit his head on the kitchen floor. And instead of making him do the thing that he needed to do, I would then scoop him up, rub his head, give him lemonade and cookies, right? Because I was like, why is my baby hurting himself? And I was so, in the turmoil that we get in, and me thinking, is this the rest of our lives? And what has gone wrong? And just in all the emotion of that. And the first time somebody was there to walk me through the, putting it on extinction, and the therapist said to me, go, instead of responding to it, we made sure he was safe and locked up the room where he would bang his head on the floor so he could only, hit his head on the carpet. But when I walked away, he didn't want to hit his head on the carpet anymore. He came over and started pulling on my pants because what he wanted was that attention, right? So they had me watering plants and dusting furniture. And it was exhausting. It was so exhausting, and I almost gave up. But the therapist said to me, don't give up, stick in. And so when he finally did stop, my very nonverbal child, when he finally stopped and realized he wasn't going to get it by tantruming, he said, Mama. And it was like, for me, the lights went on, and I went, okay, this thing works.
Wow.
This therapy works, and I have a part to play in it. Not that it's my fault, right? Because we all get into blaming ourselves. It's not my fault. I didn't know what I didn't know. But if I change my behavior, he changes his behavior. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Because there's so much in the world of autism where we feel like we don't have any power.
Yeah.
And I honestly, this is where you get the power back, is by paying attention. What is it they want?
Definitely.
Don't give it to them when it's something that they're doing that you don't want them to do, but do give it to them when they're doing something you do want them to do.
Yeah.
Man.
Absolutely. And it works with everyone. Like, if you really think about it, and I don't want to, it's funny because I remember giving many years ago, I was lecturing at UCLA. This is when I was a student there, a grad student, and I was giving a lecture instead of my professor Lovos, who wasn't there. And I was talking about this exact concept, and because everybody you're teaching are young students, right? And I was telling them it's the same, like with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, it's the same thing. If they do something bad, just don't pay attention, right? And then it'll get worse before it gets better. And once it gets better, that's when you want to pay attention.
Yes, I don't know if my husband is watching, but he's been ABA'd at times.
Yeah.
So, and I would guarantee you that he is ABA'd me back
as well.
So there we have it. It's a fabulous thing. All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to continue on with more of your questions, and you can be writing into us right now in the live feature on Facebook and on YouTube. Stick with us.
This is Logan Shepard. At first glance, he looks like a typical American teenager. He plays in a band, loves hanging out with his friends, He doesn't like doing homework, and he's not really fond of broccoli. But Logan Shepard is not your typical 14-year-old. Logan was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. He was nonverbal, made no eye contact, and his parents were told to abandon all hope. Instead, his parents began an intensive intervention treatment. At its center was a quality ABA program known as the CARD method. This is Logan Shepard now.
All I really want to say is, like, I'm kind of copying Martin Luther King. I kind of have a dream, like, that one day, like, I can just, like, inspire people and never give up. Because, like, that's what I want to do in life. Because if I can succeed, they can succeed. And I will succeed.
To follow Logan's musical journey, visit www.facebook.com/officialdrummerrock or @drummerrock on Instagram. For more information on the CARD method, visit www.centerforautism.com or call 800-345-CARD. Rock on, Logan.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Grandpichet. It's Halloween. If you're just tuning in, you might be wondering, who is Shannon dressed as? Well, you have to guess. It shouldn't make sense to you. I don't have all the costume elements on. It shouldn't make sense to you until my better half, Nancy Allspot Jackson, is here. We always dress together for Halloween. And a lot of times we have to do a show before Halloween. This is a rare treat that Halloween is actually the day we're doing a show. Very exciting for us. So you'll have to see that at the top of the hour, but you can write in and see if you can guess correctly who it is that I am. But I can tell you that I'm not wearing all of the elements of the costume yet. But we are also doing serious business, answering questions about autism while we're having fun. Dr. Grandpichet is dressed as the amazing Zoltar today. It's one of the best costumes I've ever seen.
It's difficult to give advice wearing this, right?
Well, but there is an element about it that's kind of appropriate.
Yeah,
but I
that's
keep
true.
saying that I want it to say ding. And do you have cards to give out? You have your fortune cookies.
I have cookies, yeah, which my daughter was kind enough to go buy late last night because she was like, you have to give fortunes out. So
It takes a
true.
village, right?
Yes.
It absolutely takes a village. Halloween is such a hectic time in our house. We had like glue guns and things out this morning, and everybody was helping everybody. In any case, we are, like I said, we're having fun, but we're also alternating with serious business, answering your questions on Facebook, YouTube, and questions that have been written into us. So very serious question here. Is preschool important for children on the autism spectrum? What is recommended? A preschool for children on the spectrum or a neurotypical preschool? The hours of the preschool conflict with my son's ABA hours. As of now, our ABA provider only has mornings available. I would hate to lose them. They are amazing. We get some form of this question a lot. People wanting to know, honestly, how to prioritize and what to do. And it's pretty individual, I would imagine.
It is very individualized, but the general rule I would say is that if your child is extremely high functioning and is going to benefit from being around other children, then it becomes really important for them to actually be in a preschool environment and be able to play and interact and do all these fun things. But in general, I would say ABA will trump anything else because it is really, really important. Am I losing my mustache? Is that what's going on? That's okay. It's super, super important to be able to have the ABA take place. I always say the mornings the kids are more just awake and fresh, and they can actually benefit more. So if I were you, preschool, your child is so young, you don't need to worry about it. I would actually do ABA, not worry about it, because the more important thing about schooling for our children is that they're high functioning enough, or they get to a point where they are able to actually benefit from being in social environments. Most of our children, if your child is nonverbal or has very delayed communication, has delayed social skills and so on, believe me, they're not going to just pick that stuff up by being around other children. They're not going to suddenly miraculously start playing. Even if your child is interested in other children, the ABA teaches the child how to interact, how to socialize, how to communicate appropriately. And then when all of that is done, you will be able to actually benefit a lot more from the school environment. I would suggest that you not worry about preschool, have your child do ABA, and then maybe if the child is free in the afternoons, you can still take your child to other social activities like a gym program or sports, athletics, those types of things. Or music, any kind of like choir or whatever, those types of activities where they also will have access to other kids. Don't worry about academics at all. You have plenty of time. And then perhaps by kindergarten, maybe 1 or 2 years, you do intensive ABA, and then by kindergarten, you'll be ready to actually benefit from a school environment. Even when we integrate our kids into kindergarten or first grade, we will send a ABA therapist with the child so that there is basically, the child is never really alone, and there's going to be a shadow with the child. So that's what I would recommend. But again, if the child is extremely high functioning, already able, what we would have called in the old days Asperger's, then your child may benefit from preschool already now.
Well, and you know, we've been doing a lot of talking recently about listening for the question that isn't being asked. And when I see a bunch of parents asking these same questions, I'm always now asking myself, what's the question that isn't being asked? You know, we're one of the things that came up in conversation is that we love Disney, right? We love Disneyland, and
Yes.
Disneyland is considered the happiest place on earth. And one of the things that they do in their trainings there is that they teach their employees how to listen for the question that isn't being asked. Do you know what the most frequent question is asked on Main Street? Is that people ask, what time does the 3 o'clock parade start?
Interesting.
What time does the 3 o'clock
O'clock
parade
parade start?
start? And, you know, of course, you know,
That's so funny.
normal people would want to be like, dude, it starts at 3.
3 o'clock,
You gave
yeah.
me the information in the question that you asked. But Disney teaches their people. So what are the questions that those people are really asking? It's a way of starting a conversation. If you think about it, it's a lot how our kids are, right? They do movie talk or whatever to open the conversation.
Absolutely.
Isn't right? But, you know, we do that too. So here's the thing that I'm going to say about this is that I feel like when parents ask questions about should we do preschool or not, that, and what's the recommendation for it, that really what's happening is that school is putting pressure, saying
That's
you
possible,
have
yeah.
to bring your child, that, and family puts pressure and says,
yeah.
why aren't you going to school? And school will sometimes make you feel guilty and like you're not a good parent for keeping your child home for a year or 2 to do
Right.
therapy rather than go to preschool. We're kind of bombarded with things. There's commercials that play on TV that say kids do better if they go to preschool, right?
That's right.
So it makes it hard for a parent to choose to do something else. And I can only say that that was my experience, that I had a wall full of people telling me, oh, he's got to go to school, he's got to go to school. Well, he was nonverbal and didn't know how to play with other kids. And we made the decision to put him in intensive ABA for at least a year before going to preschool, from the time he was 3 to 4. And man, the school acted like I had committed a crime. They
Yes.
sued us.
What?
They
Oh my
filed
God.
papers and sued us.
Wow.
Because they wanted to be in open court and say that we had picked something that wasn't advantageous to make an example of us. So believe me when I say I know what it's like to be
Good
pressured
Lord,
and
that's
told.
crazy.
And you know what? That year,
Changed his life.
when I look back, like, you know, people say, what's the one thing you know for sure? I know for sure we made the right choice that year. I get goosebumps when I think about what happened in that year and the difference
Wow.
that year made. And even the school, the first, you know, he went in for his first IEP and they you know, did their assessment and they offered him the most severe placement, the most restrictive placement, and they considered him moderate to severe. A year at CARD intensively, where we ramped up to 40 hours. And at the end of the year, the school wanted to assess him again. And they sent somebody who'd never seen him before. and they offered him full inclusion, and our child was included thereafter.
Wow.
After 1 year. That's the difference that year made. But please know that I had to fly in the face of my family and, you know, friends who are educators and school administrators, and appear before judges.
Yes.
And plead my case. So there were a whole lot of people telling me that this was not what was best.
That's
But
terrible.
I know for sure that it was. So I put that out to you. If you're asking the question about, you know, should I, even though school is saying that he belongs at school, I am a former teacher. I know how great a school environment is if you're ready. And if you're not, then you know, a year of doing ABA intensively can only help a child to be more ready. And for some kids, it might take 6 months. For some kids, it might take 2 years or
Definitely.
3 years before they're ready to go into the classroom. But it's very individual, but I know that it's worth it.
Absolutely. That's such a good example, too. I mean, I can't imagine that a school would actually do something like that. That's crazy.
They sued us twice.
That's unbelievable.
A couple
to
of
me.
years later, they sued us again.
For this time, for what?
Because they felt that what we were asking for was
Was-
inappropriate. We were asking for them. I have to be careful because of what I can say and what I can't
Yeah.
say because of settlements and things. But I can say what we were asking for. We were asking for them to continue having CARD consult in the classroom, and for them to contribute towards that.
That's amazing.
And they filed suit against us twice. I think I'm the only person I know that has had due process from the school filed against us twice.
Wow.
And then whenever I say that around lawyers, they go, "Oh no, you mean you filed due process?" And I go, "No, I know exactly what I'm saying and what I mean."
It's crazy
and they did
to
it
me. It's just amazing.
twice. That's okay. Everything worked out,
Yeah.
right? I didn't know it at the time, but it meant that we were asking for things that were right, and they were afraid.
That's right.
And
you know what? It
forged
made
ahead.
it less likely for them to ever do it again
Well,
to someone else.
That's the thing. I do recall them telling me that they would never, ever, ever vendor with card. That would never, ever, ever, ever happen. And of course, they vendor with card. So there we have it. Anyway, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back with more of your questions. Stick with us.
That's truly amazing.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. This month we're going to be creating a popsicle puzzle. As we do this fun activity, you'll notice these icons will pop up. These icons tell you important information about the skills we're using to create the craft and where you can find them on the Skills program. Skills is an ABA-based tool that helps parents create a curriculum that will help their children that are on the autism spectrum. Well, let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are popsicle sticks, tape, and arts and crafts materials. So step one, you're going to take your popsicle sticks and lay them down and cover them with tape so they don't move around. Now that my popsicle sticks have been secured with tape, here comes the fun part. You're going to take your arts and crafts materials, they can be paint, markers, whatever you have, and then you're going to decorate this with a beautiful picture. This is the beautiful picture that I made. Now what I'm going to do is remove the tape. And now, as you can see, they come apart. And here is your awesome puzzle. Now, the fun part is trying to assemble the picture that you just made now that it's all been separated. I hope you enjoyed this activity with me. Until next time, guys, craft on! To find more about Skills and to access all of the lessons you saw in today's Smarty, visit skillsforautism.com and click on the parents icon. Skills, the online autism solution.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and we're at the ABCs and XYZs of Special Needs Conference. And this year, for the first time, they've got something really remarkable. It's the Entrepreneurial Boutique. These are all items that have been made and are being sold by individuals who have special needs. So we're going to do a little shopping and talk to some of these fabulous entrepreneurs. Come on.
My name is Molly Rarick, and I'm founder of Breed's Gift. We're a nonprofit that serves teens and adults with special needs, like Chase here. We were founded in 2013 and serve people in the Conejo Valley, Santa Barbara, and LA.
Our main objective is to give our participants the skills they need to gain a more independent life.
My name is Shelley Cox, and Lisa Zalagi and I are founders of Creative Steps and Create Micro Business Enterprises. And the items that we're selling here today are all made by the clients who have passions about what they want to make, and then they get the profits from what they make after we've paid all of the other expenses.
We are here today because my goal is to be independent, and also I would like to share all my artwork, and I would like to sell.
Thinking about at his young age being a businessman, it's amazing. I cannot be more proud.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are here on Halloween with a very special episode. Right now, it is during Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet is here with us. She is dressed as
also
Zoltar.
known as Zoltar.
You do not need to adjust your computer. It is what it looks like. Is that not the best?
You know what's funny
ever?
is because I'm laughing and smiling, and yet my face doesn't really change much, with these.
It really
but my
doesn't.
mustache does fall off a few times
Yes,
today.
the
so
more
that's
she
all right.
talks, the more more.
I'll try to be careful.
No,
about
no, no,
that,
no.
yeah.
We'd rather have the question and have the mustache
Yes.
fall. Plus, which there's high comedy in the mustache falling off, so
That's
it's
true.
all okay. In any case, okay. So we've had a lot of people writing in lately about getting started at CARD, and I thought it might be interesting.
Yes.
This question in particular kind of cut to my heart. They said, "I would like to make an appointment to see the therapist for ABA. Can I call to make the appointment, or do I have to go online? It's too difficult."
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's online. Yeah. No, you can call. You can definitely call. Go on our website at CARD and the Center for Autism. Actually, we should try to give them the phone number. Huh? I think it's. I don't know what the admissions phone number is, but if you want to just call the reception, you can call 818-345-2345. Area code 818-345-2345, and then ask for admissions, and they'll send you to admissions, and then you can talk to them there. You do not have to necessarily go online.
And I know that there was a period of time when you could only call the 800 number, right? And then CARD made a portal on the website so that you could get started at 3 o'clock in the morning if you wanted to, and you could start uploading your documents, and that's a wonderful thing. But there was a period of time in which they were trying to get everybody to go on the portal because they wanted to see if that worked. But a lot of people have written in and said, I need help. And this would be me. I am inept, I'm realizing.
Or we need to make the portal easier if that's what's happening.
Well, I think sometimes, a lot of us weren't raised with technology.
Of course,
right?
me
And
too,
so
yeah.
it depends on your age, and it depends on whether, that stuff is intuitive for you or not.
Or if you have access. I think some of the times we just don't have access to computers.
And that's the case too. But I love that in just a few days, that there is now going to be a call center.
That's right. That's right.
And you'll be able to call. There's the phone number right there. Thank you so much, Gabriel. 855-345-CARD. You'll be able to call in. That call center is not active yet, although you can call the number and get through to someone or get a machine. But there will be a call center that's going to be coming so that all of these kinds of things can be dealt with individually.
Right.
One of the things that I love about CARD is that they do listen. And I know sometimes it takes asking more than once, because it takes a couple of people to say, hey, I'm having that issue too. But CARD is responsive. I know a lot of you have written in and said that, can we have more for teens and adults? And there's a very exciting thing that's happening this Sunday in Duarte, California. They're having an open house for the very first ever CARD center that is specifically for teens and adults.
I know. I'm so excited about it.
I'm so proud of you guys.
Thank you. We
It's a
finally
wonderful
did
thing.
it.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
It's amazing.
We now have full hilarity.
I've lost my
It's
mustache.
like right on your necklace.
Oh, okay, good.
Right about. It's actually, I said, full hilarity.
Thank you. I think I'm just going to leave it that way for the rest of the session.
But in any case, not to take away from the teens and the adults program.
Yes.
So this Sunday, in Duarte, California, there is a new center. It is actually open now, but they're having the open house on Sunday. It's from 12 to 3. I know my son and I are going to try to drop by at some point during that window of time. But I know that more will be coming, and if it's something that you're not near Duarte, please make your voice be heard. Write in, and you can write in and tell me here in any of the ways that we have, and I filter all of that to meetings and let people know what it is you guys are asking for or what you guys are suggesting. And when you have other things on your mind, other things that you're saying, hey, you know what would be great, don't let that, you know what they say, die in committee, the committee in your head. Don't let it die in committee in your head. Write to us, tell us. Yesterday, I had something tremendous happen that somebody wrote in on YouTube and asked us, they love our jargon piece, but there were things, verbal operants that I have not covered. That I did not know about.
Oh.
They were asked, but I knew about them, but I just didn't know that that's what the terms were.
And you put them in now?
But I haven't yet, but I intend to. I just have to get a little bit, smarter. I have to learn about it before I can talk about it,
Yes,
right?
sure.
But they were asking to do a piece on textural, but not textural prompts about verbal operants, which I had never thought of. I did not know they were verbal operants, I have to be honest. I thought of it as a prompt, but not a verbal operant.
Okay.
And that they wanted transcription. And then when I was looking that up, I found out about autoclitic, which I had never heard that term before, ever. I was like, what? There are things that I've never, ever heard. How much more is there?
You need to get your BCATs, I'm telling you.
I took the test.
Did you really?
I passed with flying colors in the very first time it was offered.
Then you have
but
to...
I didn't do all the rest. Because there's a lot of hours you have to do it. But I passed the test.
That's
first time it was offered.
Of course, amazing. Thank you.
Yes,
good job.
Absolutely. Wanted to see if I could. I encourage all parents. We should talk for just a second about what the BCAT is.
Absolutely.
Do you want us to tell them, or you want me to tell them?
Maybe you should, so I don't have to deal with my mustache that's falling off.
It's funny.
I told you this morning I was dealing with the beard. So I ended up crazy gluing the beard, but I'm not going to crazy glue the mustache, let me tell you.
I'm still worried about the fact that you crazy glued the bottom.
It's going to be fun taking it off tonight.
What's funny is if you take the box off for just a second, if you don't see the box, you look a little like Mario.
I do.
Mario Brothers. So that's cracking me up a little bit. Okay.
Yes.
So BCAT, which stands for Board Certified Autism Technician. We've talked a lot on the show before about the RBT, which is being a registered behavior technician. And when you become a registered behavior technician, that's a fabulous thing. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's specific to autism. Depending on where you study and which course you take, you might find out more about things that are about ABA but not autism specific. But BCAT is very specific to autism. And so that's a really fabulous thing. If you are somebody who has a child who's on the autism spectrum and you're like me as a parent, I still have a sign when we moved, recently I moved it, that says, Jem's team is only as strong as its weakest player, and I will not be the weakest player on the team. I will not.
Yeah.
Right? So if you feel like me and you want to learn more, there is a wonderful website where you can go and take online classes for very inexpensive amount, less than one college class to take the entire course to become an RBT or a BCAT. And that's at ibehavioraltraining.com. ibehavioraltraining.com. You can do it at your own speed. Like, you really, to take the coursework, to be ready to take the test, you could do it as quickly as 1 week. If you were doing nothing else.
Because it's
you can
40
make that
hours.
happen.
You definitely could, yes.
So, but if you want to take a long time, the thing when you do the RBT, if you're going to take the coursework and then and do the RBT, you have to complete it within 6 months. So that's the only thing with that. But right now, you could register to take the test for the BCAT. I took it and I passed.
Yes.
And I love that a lot of people study for the BCAT by watching our jargon.
That's so great.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
So, but I don't remember autoclitic being on the BCAT exam. I don't think
not.
it was on
It's a
there.
little bit more, advanced and sort of
It's
not
more
really.
Skinner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I found out yesterday, I did some research. I was down the rabbit hole. What autoclitic, oddly enough, we were talking about self-language and how we think in our head the other day, and I just didn't know the term.
That's it.
So there we have it. Okay, moving on. Should we take a break or do you want another question?
I'm good.
Okay, so hi, I'm a new BCBA and I am struggling with joint attention with my new client that has a lot of self-stimulatory behaviors. I only have 1 hour a week with him, and even though I have sanitized the environment, I bring new novel toys with me every week. He is happy making noises and walking back and forth in the room and does not sit with me. I know you will know how to help me. I love the show. Well, thank you. We love you back.
That's lovely, yeah. Very
I do want
nice.
to point out that it's a BCBA, which is a board certified behavior analyst. And so they're saying that they only have 1 hour a week. I don't want anybody to think that this child is only having 1 hour a week of therapy,
Right.
because that would be pointless.
Yeah, I don't really think you should be focusing on advanced concepts like joint attention at this point. I think what you're trying to, you're referring to it perhaps as joint attention, but I think what you really need here is just for the child to be attending to you and able to interact with you or start to become compliant, or let's just say be aware of your requests. So he is making noises and walking back and forth. What I would do right now is I would just start with a primary reinforcer, like a food item that the child wants, and I would ask the child to come and get it from you, and I would do a very, very minimal request. So either a brief moment of looking at you, or even just coming and getting it from you, and then gradually coming sitting down and getting it from you, and then gradually coming sitting down and then prompt for eye contact and getting it from you. In other words, if this is a child who has been running around all the time, they're not, and it looks like you're having a hard time even getting his attention with toys, I would drop to primaries. Start using a primary reinforcer and reduce your demand to the most very basic, and then shape it up from there. It's always nice to speak with a BCBA because you can just throw in all the jargon.
And shape it up from there. Okay, but there was something that you said, though, that I was thinking, for parents, and now I can't remember what it was. Oh, tell us why food, because parents, we go, why does it have to be food? Why does everything have to be food-centric?
Yeah, so it's not about the food. There's just certain things that are primary reinforcers. That means that they are naturally reinforcing without being taught. So for instance, to adults, it's possible that we could say, let's say, money is a reinforcer. Obviously, everybody works. That's why we go to work. We work in order to get money. But money is not a primary reinforcer. It's actually a token. It's a secondary reinforcer, which essentially means that it is something that has been associated with primaries. So one of the main reason we want money is to purchase food. If you think about it, survival, right? Or comfort, or those types of things. So anything that is naturally reinforcing, so such as food, is considered to be primary. Anything that is learned is a secondary reinforcer, and primaries are more effective. With our kids, it's very, very hard often to determine what their secondary reinforcers are. Like a lot of times we think that our children should like one thing or another, but hey, they don't. Like some children hate being touched or hugged. Other children crave it. Some children, like the feeling of water on their face. Other children hate it. Some children will love the attention you give them. Other children are completely indifferent to attention, or they're disturbed by the sound of it. So it's very hard, and when you have a hard time identifying what is reinforcing, you always drop down to the primaries, because that's naturally reinforcing for everyone. That's the real reason. And then you get away from it, obviously. You will ultimately not want to live with primaries as your only reinforcer, but you will gradually pair the primary now with social. Like, one of the first things we do is we reinforce a child by giving a small piece of food, but we're also cheering and or hugging or so on, and so that over time the child's primary reinforcer is paired with the social. A lot of times with our kids, they're not enjoying the social yet. I see a smile on your face. Is the mustache falling again? Or?
Yes, but I'm just laughing at something that my husband wrote in, because he is watching. He said, "I love that you're asking Zoltar, do you want to take a break, or shall I ask you another question?"
That's so great.
Yes. Okay. Back to the primary reinforcers. I totally derailed us. So I think it's really important, because parents,
you worry about,
speak
yes.
isn't the thing that we're, but what I know is that a lot of times, and it goes hand in hand with talking about our toy guide, because we want our kids to play, we want our kids to hug us, we want our kids to talk, we have all this list of things that we want our kids to do, and we don't know how to get them to do it. And experts will come on the show and talk about, well, reinforce, and then parents write in and go, but what if my kid doesn't like anything?
Right.
The truth of the matter is that everybody has primary reinforcers.
That's right.
And maybe your kid is, food sensitive and doesn't like a lot of things, but kids generally will like at least one thing, and that's the place you start.
Right. And if they don't necessarily like one thing, you just don't overfeed them. Like, in other words, hunger is a natural thing that happens to everyone. So at some point or another, every human being will want food.
And drink.
And those are the two things that you use until you can figure it out. Yeah, I know. This is like
You're
just complete comedy today. I apologize.
But no, and I'm sorry that I keep attending to it. But in any case, I've been around BCBAs way too long that I just said I'm attending to it. Okay.
Yes,
Anyway,
yeah.
I've turned to the dark side. Did everybody see that? But it's so, I know, because I was this parent, that it's this frustrating thing where you kind of box yourself in the corner, where you say, well, I don't want to do something that's unnatural, but I want to figure out how to teach my child.
Right.
And I think what's important for people to know
Yes.
is that it like everything else in life, it changes. You aren't going to end up reinforcing your child by feeding them, little pieces of potato chip the rest of their lives.
Right.
That's not what's going to happen. It's just a stepping stone
Right.
into other things.
That's
if
right.
done properly,
That's
and
right.
if you're paying attention, that will be faded away. The thing that is loved will be paired together with something that they have a neutral reaction
Exactly.
to until they love that thing.
Exactly.
And then you have a wider variety of things, and you don't have to do food all the time.
That's right.
And eventually you fade it out so that there is no reinforcement for those things anymore.
That's
It
exactly
is
right.
beautiful how it works.
I don't know why we're okay with things like a pacifier or giving a child a lollipop or whatever, but we're not okay with this, So
Because of us.
Yes,
not-
it's just
because
us
of us
defining
being-
what's okay.
Yes.
That's right.
I know I was like, I have issues with food. Food
Mm-hmm.
is my big reinforcer. And I did not want to put that on him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't want them to use food as a I was the biggest pain in the neck about it. The biggest pain
You
in
were
the neck
worried
about
about it, yeah.
Oh, no, I wasn't just worried about it. I was like, no, you can't do that. I was that horrible parent. And they would wheedle around me a little bit and say, just for this, can we just do it for this? And I would go, all right, but you're giving him a hot dog. There's no candy. We're not doing candy. There was one therapist in particular who really wanted me to do gummy bears, and I was like, it's not happening. There are no gummy bears coming into my house. Everybody in my family is diabetic. We're not giving a 2-year-old a gummy bear. Like, it was the worst thing that could ever happen in the world.
I understand, yeah.
Like she was going to feed him toxic poison. Honestly, that was my reaction to
Yeah.
it. And we didn't do the gummy bears. We survived. I think
Sure.
it took us longer to do what she wanted to do.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
the other thing I want to say, though, too, now that we brought up the food and allowing a child to get hungry, because I don't want people to write in and go, "You're starving children." That's not what we're talking
No,
about
not at all, not at all.
But it's like, you know, I love when other parents ask me, how is it that I get my child to eat vegetables?
Mhm.
The trick that I learned from a good friend who has children who are not on the spectrum was, she said, I know that there are certain times of the day when they're automatically hungry, and that's when I put out a plate of vegetables. When I'm cooking dinner and they come home from school, there's a plate of raw vegetables that's there, and it's amazing
That's
how
a
they,
good point.
how they get
Absolutely.
eaten, because and I love when people say, well, my kid won't eat this and my kid won't eat that, but they go on vacation
Mhm.
and they're at the hotel and they don't have the thing, and suddenly their kid will eat other things.
Definitely.
Because hunger wins, but we're not talking about, you know, doing the Joan Crawford thing where you feed them the same pork chop.
No, of
for
course not. No,
17
of course.
meals.
Right,
we're not,
right.
We're
No.
not talking about that at all. We're just saying being mindful and choosing what you give and when you give, and not feeding them every hour on the hour.
When you need food to be effective. It's like
Yeah.
toys. It's the same thing. If you give a child 100 toys a day, no new toy is going to be interesting.
Right.
So-
Right. There you have it. Okay, we've only got a couple of minutes left, so I want to get to this last one. We need a functional behavior analysis for our young adult family member in Tacoma, Olympia, Seattle area. And then it says most everyone just seems to have child clients, not adults in this area. We have an office that's
We
up
do,
there.
and of course we do FBAs for adults as well.
Yeah.
So please contact our office up there.
centerforautism.com and take a look. All you have to do is scroll down by state. So that would be Washington, yes? Or Oregon?
Seattle,
I get
Washington, I
confused.
guess,
And
yeah.
So we have offices, we have an office in Tacoma.
Yes, we
So, and look and see if there's one that's closer, because you said it's this area. But you know, you can still call the number that we put up earlier and say, I want a functional behavior analysis. If it is
Assessment.
Assessment. If it's, I will say that if it's somebody that's in school and the behavior is happening in school, schools are supposed to
That's right.
have someone who can come and do an FBA.
They must have one. Yes, they have to.
They're supposed to.
Yes.
I mean, I've met places where they say, yeah, on paper they have somebody, but that somebody serves 18 school districts.
Right,
and
right.
we can get an FBA in about a year. The other thing is, and I can't find my skills tent anywhere, but skillsforautism.com, that you can go there, and they have an indirect.
Yeah, that's a
functional-
CFA, so you would answer a bunch of questions on there. It's called an indirect functional assessment. So you're answering questions, and then it helps you identify the function.
There you go.
Yep.
So there's that. I hate to end the show, but we have to. This is hilarious.
It's
This
been
has
a pleasure.
so
Thank you
much
for
fun.
tolerating my falling off mustache.
Do you have a fortune for us, Zoltar,
I do.
before you leave?
Here we go.
Oh, okay.
You're going to have to choose the fortune,
Okay.
and then you can open it
Okay.
and see what it says.
And this will be for all of us. A bold and dashing adventure is in your future within the year. This
Wonderful.
year, I would assume then. This is for all of us, a bold and dashing adventure. And then we have lucky numbers so that we can win the Powerball. I'm so disappointed that we didn't win this last time.
I know.
I had plans. I had plans for all of us. Anyway, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, Nancy Allspaw Jackson will be joining us, and then you will get to see the big reveal. Plus, we have two authors, counting two, that we're going to be interviewing during this show. Stick with us.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
What would you do if your child was hurting?
If your family's future was uncertain.
If help seemed out of reach.
Have you been given no hope?
TACA means I am not alone in this.
This is the reality for families affected by autism. And today, the number of children with autism is growing more rapidly than ever. TACA unites these families and ensures that they do not have to fight this battle alone.
Our oldest son, Jared, who has autism, when we first took him to the doctor to get the diagnosis, you know, it's so sad because they offer you nothing. There's no help, there's no hope.
One of the things that you learn with autism is being very grateful for even the small milestones. You know, when you first get the diagnosis, you go through all the range of emotions. You know, this can't be happening. Why is this happening? You have to get to a point where it's the emotion that has to be leading is, what can I do? The first thing that struck me was walking to a room and seeing, oh my gosh, we're not alone. And there is this very strong community that's already set. And something I still today associate with TACA the most is hope. To me, that's what TACA means. TACA means hope.
It's like you've got all these dreams and goals of what your son's going to do, and you get your diagnosis and you're sent home. And that's it. There's no plan of action. There's no, here's autism, here's what we're going to do to make your life better and help him. It's strictly go home and try to process it and go on the internet. It was devastating, and you just, you know, you go through this 3 week of depression and then you snap out of it. You have to. And then you start making phone calls and trying to figure out what is autism and what are we going to do. And then we found TACA, and it was life-changing.
Autism, there really is no definitive answer. It is trying to find the resources that are out there that can assist you to help your child so that, you know, you just don't feel so helpless at those particular moments.
There was direction and there was hope and there was a little ray of sunshine that he's going to be okay and we're going to be okay. I always look back and think we would never be where we are. Carson wouldn't be where he is at without TACA.
So 13 years ago, my son was diagnosed with autism, and that put our whole family into a tailspin. There were so many different ideas and things that were not proven. Nobody knew what guidance to give us. We had no direction. And then we found TACA. They helped give us a path to follow, help give our son a better future and make him healthy and put him back onto the road of recovery. When your son's first diagnosed, the first thing you hope for is, gosh, I just want my son to speak. I just want to be able to communicate with him in some way. Then you want a little more. You want him to go to a regular school. Then you want him to potentially have a real life and go to college. So you're always hoping for the future of your child. My son is a happy, healthy, vibrant, young boy that's going to turn 15 really soon, and we couldn't be more pleased, and without Taka, I don't think we'd be in the place that we are today. We believe the future is not defined for many affected by autism. There is hope and direction for these kids and their families. Taka is dedicated to providing community, support, education, and hope to families affected by autism.
At Taka.
At Taka.
At Taka.
We are families with autism helping.
Helping.
Helping families. Helping families with autism.
Hi, my name is Matt. I am 19 years old and I was diagnosed with autism when I was 6 years old. Autism is one of the fastest growing developmental disabilities in the United States, but I am living proof that with the right treatment, hope is possible. My future is not limited. Today, I am attending Fullerton Community College and I run for the cross-country team for fun with my friends. It makes me feel proud when I think about my progress. Chances are you know someone affected by autism. Show them they are not alone and help others get on the road to recovery. Contribute to Talk About Curing Autism today.
Hello, I am Oliver Hardy, and this is my cohort, Mr. Stan Laurel. Stanley.
Hello, Ollie.
And here we are. It all makes sense now, yes? Thrilled to be here.
Thrilled to be here.
I had stopped dressing up for Halloween until I met you.
Right.
And then Nancy drugged me kicking and screaming back into the Halloween scene. But I quite enjoy it, I have to say.
It is fun. It is fun.
I have to say it's very fun. And I was saying to Dr. Grant-Pichet that you and I start talking about it in March, April?
Yeah.
Somewhere but we couldn't come to any kind of a decision this year until 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
But there is a movie that's coming out about Laurel and Hardy.
Right.
In January, I think. And so we thought, well, you know what, we haven't been men before.
Right.
And a little later, when Gabriel tells us it's safe to, we're going to recap some of the characters that we've been in the past.
That would be fun.
But thoroughly enjoy being here with you.
It is always fun.
And the point was made to me earlier that next year we could just be Abbott and Costello, and it's basically the same costumes.
Oh, okay.
We can just save ourselves. So anyway, great deal of fun. But we've got a big show. Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy
Two
this
guests
morning.
today.
Yeah, two fabulous authors. You've got the books right there.
Yes.
Trevor Pacelli.
Yeah, 6-word lessons on growing up autistic, which is very helpful.
So we're going to love talking about that in a little while with him.
On the spectrum.
And then Lisa Combs.
Push to Open, a teacher's quick guide to universal design for teaching students on the autism spectrum in the general ed classroom.
Well, and I can't wait to talk to her. You know, universal design is that's the big buzzword.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yes. That's what everybody's talking about.
Okay.
And should be talking about so that, anybody can access it. I have had quite an education in the last couple of years from my friends who are on the autism spectrum and that are older about the fact that I have very ableist thinking and don't even notice. And I think we're all guilty of this.
Right.
You and I both grew up in homes where there were people who were disabled. And I
Right.
put the quotation marks on because my mother was born physically handicapped, but never, ever considered herself disabled.
Right.
Right? That was offensive to her. But to anybody else's taste, she would be considered, both of her legs were born facing backward. And, walked in braces most of her life. And by the time she had kids, she spent a lot of time in wheelchairs and on crutches.
Oh,
and-
really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's how I grew up.
I didn't know
I
that.
thought when I became an adult that I was going to get a limp, because my mother would do a surgery and then she would be able to walk for a little while, but she would limp.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh, when you grow up, you get a limp.
Uh-huh.
And that was what I thought, that
Okay.
that someday I'll get my limp.
Right.
Was my thought process. When my mother found that out, she was horrified. But I grew up that way. You, of course, had a brother.
Had a brother with Down syndrome.
Yeah. So we grew up in houses where other things were taken into consideration. But even so, there are things that now that I go, oh, well, now I didn't think about that.
Right.
I tend to notice it now. We were at a pharmacy the other day, and there was a big sign that said, for Braille instructions, inquire here,
Uh-huh.
in type.
Uh-huh.
And my son went, who is so stupid that you make a big letter sign saying, for Braille instructions, inquire here?
Right.
And it's things like that all the time, and things like that happen in the classroom. So universal design is a very, very hot buzzword for the
Okay,
classroom,
great.
which I love. So anyway, we got the two of them, but we have some in the news first.
We have some
Shall
in
we
the
jump
news
in?
first, yes.
Did you watch 60 Minutes on Sunday?
Is that when the story aired?
Yes.
No, I did not see it.
And I have to be honest that I did not see the entire article, but a very interesting. There were a lot of things on 60 Minutes this week that, man, were dense and intense and make you sometimes go, is there any hope for humanity?
Right.
And they always try to give you something that's
Uplifting.
culturally uplifting and makes you have hope in humanity. It's almost always the last story, and this was the case this week. I can't even, Jaap van Sweden,
Yes.
he is the new conductor
At the New York Philharmonic.
Yeah. And very interesting conductor, interesting style, interesting life. Just so happens he has a kiddo on the spectrum.
Right.
Just
Who's
so
an
happens.
adult, not a kiddo
Right,
anymore. It's
but
an adult.
I call them, they're
They're
always
all
our
kiddos,
kiddos,
right,
right?
right.
Found it interesting. One of the things you could watch, and the side, for more information, you know how they do that on 60 Minutes,
Mhm.
they want more information about this, you can go and watch. They have a side article talking with him and his wife about how they used music to get him to talk.
Uh-huh.
It's very interesting because they use a technique that is very widely used in ABA,
Uh-huh.
but they don't call it that, but they are saying, this is how we got him. And they did it kind of inadvertently. They didn't know that it was a teaching technique.
Right.
But they would constantly have music on. He's a
Mhm.
conductor, they're a
Mhm.
musical family. And they would play these songs, and sometimes they would, like something would happen, and the CD would skip or
Uh-huh.
something, and a word would be missing, and he would get very, very upset.
Right.
And so then they were like, huh. And eventually they started singing the songs to him,
Mhm.
and they would pause. So singing something like the ABCs. Did you
Right.
do this with Wyatt?
Yes.
Wyatt spoke pretty
Early. Very early.
and continued to speak. So
He
you didn't have
continued
to
to
fight.
speak, but he lost a lot of language.
Did
Oh,
you have
yeah.
to fight to get it back? 'Cause
Yeah.
I felt like that was all we did the first
Right.
2 years. But so the whole thing of, you sing the ABCs, A, B, C, D, and you sing it over and over and over
Right.
and over and over again, right? And then so that it just is playing in the background over and over and over, and then you say A, B, and you pause.
Right.
And they, like they have that expectation, and then they, you can prompt them,
Mhm.
but then eventually they say C.
Right.
And then you yay, and you continue on. And then you leave more and more letters out over
Right.
time, and different letters out, and they begin, you can do that in a sentence,
Uh-huh.
but with songs.
So they did it with songs with words.
Yes. And
that's how
so-
he became verbal.
So he began, because he wanted so bad for the song to continue, and they made it clear to him, then you say it.
Mhm.
And he knew it because it had played so many times.
Right.
It's just like, I was telling a group the other day that when we taught Jem numbers, we would do 1, 2, 3, but we would
Mhm.
make it fun. So I would be tickling him, and then I would pause, and he would be like, and I would go 1, 2, 3, and then I would tickle him some more, right? So he learned the 1, 2, 3. But then, and he liked the tickle, so then I would go 1, And he would go 2, 3, so that I would tickle him, right? And we got that when he was little. We couldn't get past 3, but he could do 3. But parents have been doing this forever. Teachers have been doing this forever. You do something repetitious over and over and over, and then you leave part of it out. It's got to be reinforcing. Though. It's got to be something they love. Their son loved these songs. My son loved the tickles. But that's a way to get sentences longer, to start words. It's one of the reasons why we encourage people to start with bubbles, because there's the whole thing with you blow the bubbles and then you go, so you blow bubbles, the child loves the bubbles, then you go bubbles, and then the bubbles come out, bubbles, over and over and over again. And then you go and you don't say the third and you will see their lips will move and do the, even kids with apraxia, their lips will move. And eventually you can get them to the and then you get to the bubble, and then the bubbles, and that's, a way, but bubbles have to be reinforcing in order for that to work.
Okay.
It's all cool. But I loved it in this story. I thought great
They used
illustration.
reinforcement to teach him language, music reinforcement. And then they started the Papageno Foundation, which offering arts and music therapy projects for children and young adults with autism.
So definitely check that out.
Yeah, and the next step for the foundation was to create a permanent living space that would provide both security and autonomy for the residents. It has 12 boarders at a time, and it's a safe haven where young people in the autism spectrum can participate in art and music classes.
Isn't that
There's
fabulous?
also a culinary school.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, so from that happy story, moving on, we do have a story that is not pleasant. So if you've got little kids, maybe not the thing that they want to hear. In Independence, Missouri, a 17-year-old has been charged with robbery, and 2 minors have been put in juvenile detention after a disturbing video was posted on Facebook showing an assault of a 13-year-old with autism. And the victim's mother has said that she wants those who are responsible, to be held accountable. Her son is Alexander Schrader. The perpetrator is Alexander Schrader, 17, is charged with 1 count of first-degree robbery, and he's being held on a $100,000 cash-only bond in relation to this attack that was on the video. It's Emily Bridges who's the mom. It's her 13-year-old son, Darren, who had bruises on his face when he came home.
And they actually pulled a gun on him.
Yes. I will tell you, so much of what I read, usually I'll go and watch the video, but so much of what I read said it's so disturbing that I didn't. Apparently it's out there and you can watch it if you want to, but they were yelling at him, telling him to kiss their feet. We talk on the show a lot about how there are 4 usual suspects for why people do things that are challenging behaviors. The truth is there's 5. But our kids with autism usually only engage in the first 4 until they're adults and have learned other things from other people. But the 5th one is control. That sometimes people just want to have control. And sometimes the things that people do when they feel the need to take control are so insidious. It's so disturbing to me. And I want these kids to be held accountable because they need to learn that you can't do this. But I do hope that somebody looks into their lives to find out why, as 17, you feel so out of control that you would do this to another person.
Right, exactly.
Because that is just horrific, but we're hopeful that justice will be served in this case and that this young man will be okay.
Right. And then there's a science story about unique patterns of neural communications found in the brains of children with autism. A research team studying MRI scans of school-aged children's brains found unique patterns of neural communication involving the amygdala, the area of the brain responsible for processing social information.
As technology gets better, and as there are more kids with autism, we're having more studies being done on the brain where families are allowing their children to have MRIs done.
That's right.
And we're getting to, and where they're interacting with them and seeing while they're doing the MRI actively what parts of the brain light up, which don't. I remember one of the first articles that I ever read about autism, because I kept saying, well, what is it exactly? How did this happen? And I remember somebody telling me that imagine, well, first of all, that it's pretty typical that our kids' brains are bigger than the average brain, and that there was a period of time in which the brain, almost like it was infused with yeast, and it just grew way faster than it should have, so that we have 3-year-olds with adult-sized brains. And that what happened is that all the wiring, when it grew so fast, so they have long distance but no local service. So they might be able to, at 3, be able to do calculus, but they don't know how to say hello. And that really resonated with me. And now it's how many years later, 14 years later, and they're starting to bear this out with actual pictures of brains. We've seen Temple Grandin's brain. I encourage people to check out, if this kind of thing interests you, this is out of San Diego University, just came out this week, that they're saying that the communication between different regions of the brains in kids with autism, that it takes unexpected exits, that there are detours for no apparent reason, that the way that things travel through the amygdala is just different. Just different.
Yeah, so
fascinating. Check it out.
Science.
All right.
Cool.
We've got 2 great guests, as we said, Trevor Pacelli and Lisa Combs, both authors. We're going to take a break and come back with Trevor, so stick with us.
When Maddie was diagnosed, I'll be honest, I was very ignorant on what autism was. I knew that autism was basically something that hit boys at the age of 2 to 3 and shut down. And with Maddie, she was doing all the same signs and symptoms of a typical child with autism spectrum disorder.
Stand up.
I was thinking that we might be moving somewhere so that people could assist us either in the house or us going to see our daughter, because she was shutting down to a point that she wouldn't even recognize you being there by putting your hand in her face and yelling her name.
She didn't even acknowledge us coming into the room. She had barely any eye contact. She didn't interact with her sisters. She didn't really do anything. She just basically lined up her toys, and that was about it. With 8 volunteers, including my husband and I'm the team leader, and so I do all the curriculum and get everything ready each week.
Jana was downstairs until 11 o'clock at night working on curriculum, going through 2 different textbooks.
Look, who's that?
And then we, as a group, meet on Monday nights, and we would go through what the curriculum was from Jana. And a lot of times we would go, well, how exactly do you do that? How do you sit her at the table and do this trial-based? With what skills has done for us, it's taken that away from Jana trying to figure out the curriculum for one. She can go down, or even our laptop, and she can sit down, and through all these questions, it comes up with the different programs.
At least for me, it was a relief off my shoulders. I was worried that I might be missing a curriculum that maybe she needs to know, where the skills, they have every possible thing your child needs to know from 0 to 7. They have a program for that.
What noise is this?
Good job! Every program that we did with her, I knew it was specific for what she needed to learn. Because before skills, it was a lot of, okay, well, is that really age appropriate for a 2-year-old? You know, because it's not generalized. It's anywhere from 0 to 7. This is what your child needs to know in most manuals you'll find. But for this, okay, yep, she should be learning this. And no, she's not 4 yet. She doesn't need to know that yet.
We are so fortunate that Jana was able to attend a conference put on by CARD that opened the door for skills, and that there's no looking back for us.
We started using the program in November, and it seemed like by January something just clicked, and she has completely kind of came out of her fog that she was in for quite a while.
I have never read a documented case on any child that has not benefited anything from applied behavior analysis, and now with this new skills and being, you know, like the E version of ABA, I can't imagine that it doing anything harmful to their child. It's nothing but exponential growth for us.
To see her now, it just blows us away. I mean, we call her our little miracle child because in 7 months' time, she's just blossomed into this normal, functioning child.
She is developing roundly. She is socializing. She's playing with her peers. She's learning from her peers. It's very joyous.
Maddie, can you tell me what you see outside?
No.
Snow?
If you're even thinking about doing it, do it. Because the absolute worst thing you can do is do nothing at all. And even if you use this program and it's just a single mom or a single dad working in the evenings with their child, this program is going to benefit them. It's going to show you where they are, it's going to show you where they need to go, and it's going to show you what skills and how to get there. It is an online book on how to help recover your child.
Hello, fellow activists. Last week, I introduced you to step 5 of the 10 steps to empowerment, shore up spiritually. Let's talk more about finding ways to do that, how to find out what lifts your spirit, feeds your soul, and make it a practice. That practice is different things for different people. It could be the practice of meditation, of prayer, of community worship, or serving others. But it's the practice that will give you hope and faith and strength for the journey ahead, for the marathon journey of raising a child with autism. I get inspired every day by the families of children with autism that I come into contact with, like the parents of the nonverbal child who have not given up hope that that child will speak one day, or the grandparents who should be enjoying their retirement but instead are joyfully raising their adult grandchild with autism, or the mother who is fighting for services for her daughter while her Marine husband is fighting a battle to keep our country safe. They all inspire me. My grandmother, Diddy, who is an angel who still guides me every day, had this quote inscribed in her Bible. I sought my soul, but my soul I could not see. I sought my God, but my God eluded me. I sought my brother, and I found all three. I think I'm finally starting to grasp the meaning of that. So feed your soul, lift your spirit, and until next time, keep the faith.
Okay. And we are back with Let's Talk Autism, and I am Stan Laurel.
And I'm Oliver Hardy. Here we go. Stanley! Isn't that what he says all the time?
Yes,
Stanley.
Ollie.
Yeah, exactly. Here we are. So thrilled to be back with you guys.
Yes.
And forgive us because we're in our Halloween costumes,
Right.
but we've got great guests.
We do. We have Trevor James Picelli joining us now. Now, Trevor wrote the book, 6-Word Lessons on Growing Up Autistic, which we're going to get into in a minute. And he, as a child, published drawings in 2 children's magazines, and at age 15 illustrated a children's autism awareness book, The Kindergarten Adventures of Amazing Grace, with his sister and author Brianna. And he's had all sorts of accomplishments and writes movie reviews for his own website at trevorpicelli.com. Welcome to the show, Trevor.
Hi, thanks so much for having me here.
We're thrilled to have you here. So Trevor, where did this idea of why 6 words? Why not 16 words?
Well, so the whole thing is that it's a part of my parents' book publishing company, because like the whole idea of it is that it originates from this idea of someone who could write a story using only 6 words. For sale, baby shoes, never worn. And so, like, in that same way, my parents have set up this series of all of these 100 lessons that can tell you all about a certain subject of the author's expertise, where the title of each lesson is 6 words. Just kind of that concept of it being very short and precise, so that way it can be very quick, efficient, and easy for someone to read, and a reading that can be done in only one sitting to read through.
I love it. And so you already had this format that your parents had talked about, 6 words, but what made you want to write this particular book?
Well, the thing that really most made me want to write this was more about how like so few people really know what autism is, at least when I was growing up. I mean, I've seen an awful lot more improvement of it now lately since I've been an adult. But like especially when I was in grade school, middle school, and high school, like none of my peers really knew much about what autism even was, and I don't recall there being any real curriculums used about teaching about what a mental disorder is really like and what it's about and how it affects other students, and that could be like in their classroom. So I just wanted to write this to give others a perspective of what it's actually like from someone who grew up with it, so that way others could know what the autistic mind is like and how, like, not only that, but you can also realize that despite differences, we all can be friends with each other despite differences.
I love that.
And you have it broken down into different areas about how important it is to understand a different view of the world, for example, time alone versus time with others, getting out there to make friends. Sudden changes are a big challenge. So there's broken down into areas that I guess you have direct experience with, right, Trevor?
Yes.
So you're definitely dealing from your own experience, which really is helpful because I don't think I've ever seen a book like this that had it in such a really easy to understand format about the feelings of an autistic person.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole idea of it, because like when I was talking about this with my parents when they first proposed this idea to me, it's just this that like usually when most people would go out and learn about what autism is like, they would have to rely on like all this pages of scientific research by these other scientists who are not on the spectrum themselves. So I really do think it's valuable to have this perspective from someone who's actually lived through it, because what could be more valuable than that?
And I love the format of the book because it's so accessible. You know, there's a phrase that I use because of graduate school. When I went to graduate school, the very first week, one of our teachers, we had been assigned so much reading that I was like, I love to read. I don't know how I'm going to get all this done. And plus, which, you know, there's other reading that you need to do supplementary to it. And so one of our professors said to us, look, you know, here's a reading list of books that you have to get done. And my suggestion to you would be to take them and stick them in your bathroom. And maybe you're going to read a page or two at a time,
Right.
but by over a year, you're going to get stuff done. And so we now refer to in my family bathroom books that are books that you put in the bathroom that for guests or for whoever that, you know, they pick up, read a page, and
Right.
it can be life changing.
Yeah.
Because it's just that amount of time. And that's what this book is, Trevor. And I mean this is a big compliment. I hope you take it that way, but it's a great bathroom book. Because you remember that book that was out, this is what this reminds me of, the book that said Life's Little Instruction Booklet, and
Right.
everybody was giving it to everybody like 20 years ago.
Right.
And it was just one-page things that were these tips for life. I still use some of them. This is amazing, one-page things that you can read in just a couple of minutes, and then really sit and you know, stew on it for a month. I think that it's really fascinating. Can you just like pick any page, Nancy, and read?
Balance solo activities with parental interaction. So the need to have solo activities, the needed time alone. I needed that last night as a reminder. When
Right?
dealing with my son.
Because I think a lot of times as parents, we're so afraid to give them 10 minutes to themselves because what could happen? Well, what could happen is that they could get interested in something that's really good for them.
Exactly.
And we tend to helicopter too much. So see there, what a fabulous, fabulous tip. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing, Trevor, that you've done. Where can people get the book?
You can purchase it on Amazon, and it can be bought for the Kindle, or you could get a paper copy like what you have right there with you.
I just love it. Okay, so, but Trevor, you got a diagnosis at the age of 5, and your diagnosis was high functioning. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And a lot of times people tend to think that individuals on the spectrum have hyper interest in some things as opposed to other things. It isn't true of everybody. But one of the abilities that you have, I understand, is that you can name all of the best picture winners by heart from 1928 to now. Is that true?
Yep, very true. Yeah, just give me any year between 1928 to now.
That's amazing.
Well, I want to know what won in 1972.
The Godfather.
Wow. Oh, that's cool. Nancy, you want to ask one?
What won in 1981?
Chariots of Fire.
Ooh.
That's amazing.
Takes you right back, doesn't it?
Does,
Then you
it
remember that
does.
and go, oh, I remember that year. And I understand you also do a lot of assemblies for elementary schools on the topic of Disney movies and how they relate to autism. I want to go and see
I know.
this.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, basically, I set it up as an acronym called Autism is Belong, where each of the different letters in Belong relates to each of the different Disney movies recently made. So that includes Tangled, Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen, Big Hero 6, Zootopia, and Moana. And each one of them connects each of the characters to autism in some way. So, like, an example could be like how Elsa in Frozen separates herself from everyone else, and that causes her to have little control for her powers. But when she's open and brings herself out to others, she has better control for her powers. And that's just like how with autism, like a lot of them would not be able to know how to express love or selfish feelings towards others, but they are capable of doing it. I provide an example of that by showing an image in my PowerPoint of this couple with Down syndrome on their wedding day. So I'm just kind of showing that kind of stuff in assembly formats to these grade school kids. And so far I've done it at 3 different schools.
I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that the kids in the elementary schools
Can
love
relate
it.
to it.
Oh, yes.
That's a
Yeah,
wonderful
because
thing.
when you do so much as mention the name of any Disney movie, they definitely go wild.
And you write your own movie reviews for your own website. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's called Trevor's View on Hollywood. And so, like, I've had this site for about 4 years now. And so what I do with it is that I actually have, like, 28 different points on how to assess a movie that, like, judges it based on, like the acting and the quality of its editing and cinematography and costume design, music, and the direction, screenwriting, and even those have different subcategories to them. And I have a very, very complex system to assessing each of these different points that I've worked on for like quite a long time. Like I set it up almost 2.5 years ago, and even now I'm making constant changes to it to give what I think is a much more accurate and analytical analysis of a movie's quality from an objective analysis.
And so, Trevor, you are someone who graduated from college already at 26 with a degree in film and media studies. You're working right now, living independently with 2 roommates. You drive your car. You are not, I would imagine, you know, the job that you work, you have 2 separate things that you do for a company. Both janitorial and marketing, which to me don't really go together. I'm assuming, not that there's anything wrong with doing janitorial work, but I'm assuming that you prefer the marketing end of things. What's the end? What kind of a job are you looking for? What's your dream job?
Well, I would say right now my dream job is to do my movie review stuff more full time. And I've kind of had like wild fantasies of maybe setting this up more as being its own company where I have more people coming to help me to do their own analysis on this certain part of the points that I have with assessing a movie. So that way it can be much more accurate than the system that I have now.
Okay, very good.
I think that's
Well,
wonderful. We wish
no.
you the best of luck. We want to encourage people to get your book. Can you hold it up there, Nancy?
Yes.
This is the book. And
6-word lessons in growing up autistic.
And again, where can we get it, Trevor?
On Amazon.
Okay.
Okay.
Check it out, you guys. Great gift for the
Thank
holidays.
you for joining us, Trevor.
Yeah, and I definitely have Northwest Center to thank too.
Okay, Northwest
The
Center.
company I work for.
Okay, great.
There
We
you
see
got the
that. We
marketing
got it.
in.
You got
You
the
got the
marketing
marketing in.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Trevor, and good luck to you with all your future endeavors.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me on here.
Okay.
Having
Thanks,
this
Trevor.
opportunity.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
What a really inspirational young man.
Yes, he's accomplished so much.
Yes, and I'm sure is going to accomplish a lot more. We'll
Yeah.
keep an eye on him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to have author Lisa Combs who's going to talk with us about her book, Push to Open, and talking about that universal design that everybody's talking about. So stick with us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get wild, let's get wild. 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 Let's get wild.
Hi, welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Lisa Ackerman, Executive Director of TACA. We're gonna bake again.
All right.
It's my lovely assistant.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Lucero.
We heard so many people go, I want a decent chocolate chip cookie for my kid to eat. We've got all our dry ingredients. So I've got the flour, I've got the flaxseed meal, baking soda, baking powder, our gum, or xanthan gum.
Great.
So we're gonna get started in the mixer here. So those are dry ingredients. I do have brown sugar. We did cut this down. And the one way to do that is my favorite, and that's maple syrup. I'm using egg for this recipe, but we could use more arrowroot and also the flaxseed meal. So I'll go ahead and throw my eggs in here, which I love doing. So and then the last thing is a shortening and gluten-free casein-free butter replacement. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in. I've let it sit out for a while so it's nice and soft. So let's go ahead and mix this thing well. These are dairy-free, soy-free, and I really like them. Again, Enjoy Life is a great product. It's also net-free. And chocolate chips are a personal thing. I won't judge you if you use the whole bag.
I would.
I know, right? So here we go. Great recipe. It's the nice consistency. Everything's ready to go so we can enjoy our cookies here in just about 10 minutes. We want to give it a kind of like a couple inches between each cookie. You know, a lot of people are really concerned about aluminum, so what I've done is I laid down my natural brown parchment paper, and Jen's helping out putting the cookies down. So we're separating the nice baked good that's all organic from the aluminum cookie sheets. So let's go put these in. So magic oven allows me to pull the last ones out. And voila.
Yum, that's good.
Really great cookies. I'll let you have a bite so you can do my Vanna White there too. Yeah, these taste pretty good.
Really good.
We're going to come back later after I gain 5 pounds and eat this entire tray.
For sure.
You know, more feedback is good. So if there's something you want us to convert, like another recipe or maybe a relative made, just let us know, autismlive@gmail.com. You can go to Facebook, or there's thousands of recipes on the TACA website just waiting for you to explore. You can go to TACANOW, TACANOW.org, and we'll see you next time at Autism Live.
Bye.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get wild, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Riley has high-functioning autism, and I'd say I noticed somewhere between 9 months and a year. Looking back now, I can tell you everything. I mean, there was no pointing, there was no shared experiences, speech was not coming, the interactive play was not coming, those things weren't happening. You know, you go to the pediatrician, they tell you, well, sometimes boys are slow or things might take a while to come along, but it still wasn't happening. And right when he hit the 2-year-old room in preschool is when the wheels fell off the wagon. That's when we got some intervention. That's when we figured out, how are we going to address this problem. The first thing I did was I got a mentor, because there's no book on what to do with your autistic child. I mean, there's many books, but each path is individual. So I got a mentor, a really nice woman named Marlene. She has a daughter with Asperger's, and she told me, go to a psychiatrist so you can have your child fully diagnosed and a rock solid diagnosis that can't really be attacked. Call CARD and do whatever they tell you to do. That was probably the thing she talked about the most. Get in touch with CARD. She actually put me in touch with Evelyn from CARD, and calling CARD was like amazing, because I really felt like things were finally going to be okay. We were going to get the help we needed.
We tried a number of different things before we could get into CARD, and you could really see the difference in the data keeping, really addressing what his issues were, whereas the other places we had been, it seemed pointless to me.
We've talked about this, and I feel like we met a lot of really nice, well-intentioned people.
Right.
And then when we got to CARD, we met a lot of really nice people who could help us because they had the experience. It was ABA, which I think is the only way to go with your child if you're trying to overcome autism. And if you go to CARD, the people are so qualified, and there's so much of a database on how to approach this. It's just like they come right in, and we started off with, let's have Riley sit down for 2 seconds, because he couldn't even get that. And we worked on baby steps until now he's in 1st grade and he's working at grade level. So it just starts with baby steps, and it keeps working on, because they have a way to approach every single problem, every single tantrum, every single thing you're going to come up with. They have a way to approach it and help you get through it.
Yeah, I'm always amazed, like at our clinic, we'll be having a specific problem, and how good they are, all of them, the therapist and your team leader, at coming up with a solution, something to try, and it almost always works. Whatever the particular behavior you're trying to deal with, they're really good at them. They know the answers.
He likes a lot of stuff I think regular 7-year-olds like. He likes to swim.
He loves to swim.
He's a fish. Likes to ride a scooter, loves Toy Story, loves playing on the iPad.
Loves Justin Bieber.
Thought you all baby mine.
Good job, buddy.
High five.
High five.
High five.
Yeah.
CARD's been good about encouraging us to do things that maybe wouldn't occur to us, like him learning to ride a bike was really them saying, hey, it's time, let's do this, and helping us do that. And so he can ride a bike. He's still working on the brakes a little bit, but he can pedal a bike. We can go to Balboa Park and he'll ride happy as a clam along the bike path.
If you think something's wrong, it's not about you. Don't bury your head in the sand. Go get help, because the help is out there to make your life and your child's life just so much better. And if you're lucky enough to get in with CARD, I can't even tell you what a difference it's made in our lives from 4 years ago. Just the quality of life we have, the quality of life Riley has, the progress he's made from being a child who wanted to stay in his room and play Toy Story and line up his Toy Story dolls all day, to a 1st grader who's working at grade level. It couldn't have happened without CARD intervention, without ABA, and without all the wonderful people we met there.
Stanley, we don't have Lisa Combs. I don't know where she is.
We don't know what happened.
We
to
don't know
her.
what happened, but we can't reach her. It might be we hope she's okay.
We do.
But her book is pushed to open, and we'll have her. If Lisa, if you're watching, we're looking for you.
Could have been a time zone issue.
A lot of
which we have
times
on
we tell
occasion.
people time zones, and they're in different time zones. And
Right,
the math
right.
is not properly done on our end, or theirs. Could be anything, right?
Could be.
But anyway, push to open. We want to talk about it. So Lisa, if you're watching this, call us and we'll get you on or today or another time. But we said that we were going to talk a little bit about the Halloween thing, because I met you and was intimidated by you, let's say that, right? And then there was a story that was breaking that you asked if you could come on Autism Live to talk about. It was a young boy who had been missing.
Right.
You went to a news station to help, cover the story and also to help find this boy.
Help find him.
And you
Romero.
were part and parcel of everything. It was an amazing story of how they found this young man. And so you came on Autism Live to talk about this breaking story, and you and I just hit it off.
We did.
We were just like a house on fire. We just couldn't stop talking to each other. And so we said, let's do this all the time. Let's do this once a week. And thus, Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy was born. And then the first Halloween rolled around, and Nancy says to me, we should dress up for Halloween. And I said, well, that's a clever idea. Let's do that. And she says, let's do Lucy and Ethel, because people had called us the Lucy and Ethel of autism. So we said, okay, yeah, let's do that. Let's be the Lucy and Ethel of autism. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. So I went and last minute, like I do everything, bought this horrible
polka dot dress, as I recall.
Yes. I just found it in the movie edit. And I had pearls to be Ethel. And I bought this terrible Marilyn Monroe wig that wasn't right, but I kind of tried to style it in this, there we are.
There we are.
Now, don't I look like Martha Washington? I look like George Washington in drag.
And of course, I was Lucy.
And let me just say, like she wore the Lucy wig, and this costume is vintage.
Yes, it was a vintage costume that I rented that was a Lucy dress.
Like Lucy probably wore it in one of the episodes.
She might have, and I got shoes, spectator shoes that like she would have worn.
And then she did like hours of tutorials in how to do
makeup.
The Lucy makeup.
Which type of false eyelashes to get, how to do the lips like she did them, how to do her makeup like she did it.
She was amazing, and I looked like George Washington in drag.
And you felt very, underdone.
I was like, I have shown up to the party where everybody's in diamonds wearing jeans with holes in them and not like the jeans with holes in them, they're fashionable. And I was like, I got to step up my game.
Right. So the next year.
And we have a collage that shows the next 3 years. So I don't know if you guys can see in the bottom there, we were the two queens.
We were Queen Elizabeth I and the current queen.
So that was.
And Shannon, you did a great job because I told you had to have a corgi.
And you brought me a purse.
I brought you a purse.
I started on the dress the day before, but I made a pretty cool dress with a pretty cool sash, and my husband made me a crown.
Right.
As all husbands should do.
And you had the accent down.
Wives. And so there we are. But your costume was exceptional. But the thing about my costume that made my costume was that you said to me, you have to have the corgi.
Right. So you got the dog.
So
the
I got a
stuffed
corgi.
dog.
And we had a blast.
We did.
We need to resurrect these two.
That was fun. That was
a really fun time. So the next year, I don't know if you can see up above that, I was Julia Child.
And I was Martha Stewart, so I wore a prison uniform with my Chanel pearls and shoes.
Right. And then the next year, so there we are, Julia Child. You were a little bit unhappy with me because I didn't dye my hair.
I know.
I meant to, just like I meant to today.
Yeah.
I had a spray brown, and then I chimped out on it, and then I had a spray black today, and Jim was like, oh, you don't have to. And so I didn't do it. But otherwise, I tried my best, but I wasn't up to par with you then either.
And then we were Ellen
and Rosie O'Donnell. Which was very exciting for me because then the following year I got to meet Rosie O'Donnell and very excited to meet her as she ran up to me on the red carpet and said, I know you. I watch Autism Live all the time. That was like,
really?
I was very excited about that. And she does. She's an autism mom. She's watching Autism Live. So that was very fun. Now if we could only get Ellen to watch.
The one thing we don't have up is what we were last year, which was Cher and Adele.
Cher and Adele last year. And I had all my Grammy Awards. But there's
Ellen and Rosie.
That's a pretty decent picture. We actually look a little bit like them.
Yeah, we do.
Picture. You were hilarious. One of the things that we do after we do the show when we're in costume is that
walk around.
We usually tour the offices. It isn't usually Halloween day. but we tour the offices and spread light and cheer.
Right.
And especially with Adele and Cher last year, it was hilarious. But I got to say, when you were Ellen, it was hilarious. Everybody wanted a picture with you.
I was
'Cause
dancing.
you looked like Ellen, and you were very sporty like Ellen, and you were dancing everywhere. It was fabulous. So we have a good time. Today, there's a whole luncheon, because they do a potluck.
Oh, really?
Yes, so you have to come to the potluck and we have to be Laurel and Hardy.
Okay, we'll do that.
We need to work up some sort of comedy routine. I
know.
forgot to tell you.
I just know he goes like this a lot.
Exactly. And I'll just go, Stanley, disapprovingly.
Right.
Because that's pretty much what Oliver and Hardy do. Now, the little known fact, there's a fun thing about my wedding that has to do with Oliver Hardy.
Yeah?
The gentleman who married us at my wedding played Oliver Hardy at Universal Studios.
Oh, really?
That was kind of how we found him, was that a mutual friend said, oh, you're looking for somebody to marry you. There's this guy. So he was a larger man,
right,
bald, and with a little Hitler mustache.
Okay.
And so and when he's dressed up as Oliver Hardy, he looks like Oliver Hardy. But when he's not dressed up as Oliver Hardy, he looks like a fat Hitler. And sorry. And so he was wearing a black shirt, and we had a black background because we got married in a theater. And so our colors were black, white, and red. So everything was black and white with red roses. And so the pictures of our wedding, there's Jim standing there in black and red and me standing there in white. And it looks like he's totally dressed in black, but he's on a black background. So it looks like there was this mystical floating head. It looks like the head of fat Hitler is marrying us, like inside of a crystal ball. It's not the best thing, but it is what it is.
Only you would have wedding pictures like that.
And, and we've been married 16 and a half years, going on 17, so I guess it didn't hurt us any.
No.
And he said it was a beautiful ceremony, and he said a beautiful Celtic poem that I don't remember it, but I can paraphrase, that I love because I still think about this, that it was this thing about they're the last person that I want to see before I go to sleep tonight, and the first person I want to see when I wake up in the morning, which is still true. So I love that. So if you're watching, Jim, still true, even though it was fat Hitler, Oliver Hardy, who married us. And there you have it, folks. Now, we still don't have Lisa Combs, so I wanted to take a minute.
So we're going to have to rebook her for another day.
That's okay, and we'll do that when there's more time to do that. But if you're interested, in the meantime, get Push to Open. You can buy this at all major booksellers. It's a teacher's quick guide to universal design for teaching students on the autism spectrum in general education classroom, which is a thing that we need desperately. It's a great manual. It's got everything from seating charts, very particular things about, there's even a thing about smell and how when things don't smell right in the classroom, it can drag things down.
Right.
It talks about behavior and about things, I love this, reducing auditory clutter. Oh my gosh, as a teacher, that is so helpful. Talks about everything. Teacher, consider your voice volume, because sometimes talking louder isn't the ticket.
Right.
Right? How to do sound absorbing items in your classroom, teach students to control voice volume, practice what volume of voice you can be heard at different distances, provide whisper phones for students to read aloud or to talk to partners. Monitor and limit unnecessary adult conversations. I don't know about you, but it really cheeses me off when I go to a school and they say, well, we don't like to have adults come in to interrupt, so parents can't come in at all, you can't do anything. But then they have constant interruptions where people will come in the middle of a class and talk to a teacher about something that clearly could wait. Makes me crazy. This is a great book. Push to
Okay, we're going to get her
Open.
back on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll
but
get her
let's
on.
talk a little bit about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, we had our big Denim Diamonds and Stars gala.
And it really was lovely.
It was a great event, wasn't it?
It really was.
There were some amazing guests
and
there.
How about that? That's a pretty cool picture.
There we go with Joe Montaigne and Joanne Laura from Autism Works Now, who received our Golden Cowgirl Award.
And what Oh my gosh.
And there you are with from
Nick, it's Garcia.
Gonzalez,
you're right.
from-
Nick Gonzalez from The
from
Good Doctor.
The Good Doctor.
You know, a kind of a handsome young man.
Yeah,
Let's say
very
that,
handsome.
eye candy.
And there's the red carpet.
Yes. Our good friend BJ working the red carpet.
Right.
And the lady in the blue tutu who would never, ever let go of a guest. You guys can watch our coverage of, and they get to hear me babble because it's just me talking endlessly while I'm waiting for guests to come up. And the lady in the blue tutu, there are rules on the red carpet where, you know, you're only supposed to ask a certain number of questions and then you're supposed to release the people. They're there
Right, 'cause there
for
are
an
other people
event.
waiting
They're
for
not
them.
there to do an expose.
Yeah.
And I love being on the carpet with people and, you know, and all the things that happen. And I like to maintain a sense of humor about it. And I was very nice to the girl in the blue tutu who did not understand time limits.
No, she kept grabbing guests. and-
Oh my gosh. And not allowing them to move further down the line and just, you know, talk to Martin Sheen for like 35 minutes.
Right.
Knowing that I was standing there waiting to talk to Martin Sheen, got to talk to him for 2 minutes. So, you know, I was very polite to her, but I was about at the end of my rope. And you guys can listen to all of that.
That's
if
right.
you watch the live footage and hear me saying, and so if the girl with the blue tutu would release someone ever. But
we had a West Wing reunion right there on the red carpet.
Oh my
We had Gary
gosh.
Cole,
Yes.
Dulé Hill,
Richard Schiff, who was getting an award.
who got the award, and Martin Sheen. So they all
amazing.
got together on the red carpet.
It was amazing. But here's the other thing about the girl in the blue tutu that wasn't, next time I'm going to say something to her if she's there again, but I loved her blue tutu. But you know what did happen is because she kept Martin Sheen on the red carpet for so long, did you notice when Richard Schiff, when it was time to give his award, which was like 2 hours later after the red carpet, they said, well, we have a very special guest to introduce Richard. And Martin Sheen got up and people in the audience went, Martin Sheen is here? Like they had no idea because he had been kept on the red carpet
For
so
so
long
long,
that nobody knew that he was there. And I was like, now see if the girl in the blue tutu hadn't done that. But anyway, yes, I'm a little rule oriented, right? Everybody gives you the nice, polite talk whenever you go to do a red carpet, and they'll go, now we're limiting it to 2 minutes with each guest and move it along and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I do my 2 minutes. Anyway, but it was a great, and to see the four of them together
was really exciting.
Here's a reason why to watch our live footage. There was a point when, because she was talking to Martin Sheen, Richard Schiff came down and was talking with me and Gary Cole, and they were waiting for Martin. So I did get a longer interview with the two of them, and I said, hey, in this environment in which people are bringing back all these shows, I'm just saying, is it a possibility? I was the hugest West Wing fan. And I said, is it a possibility? And they said, well, you know, I mean, the truth is we've had conversations with Aaron Sorkin about it, but the problem is that most of the people that we would want to be president can't be president. Like, you can't bring Martin Sheen back and be president.
Why not?
Because 2 terms. He can't come back and be president again. And they were saying, you know, and by this time Jimmy Smits already would have been elected twice. And so, you know, who do you make president?
Right.
And Gary Cole said, well, the obvious answer is to make Allison Janney president.
Oh, yeah.
And I went, I was like, oh, you know, and I just held the microphone out to them, and then the two of them started talking about it. And Richard Schiff said, well, I have this idea, you know, and then they started talking, go watch it. It's amazing.
Okay.
It's amazing.
To watch them brainstorming.
And I just got really quiet. You know, that whole Hamilton song about when you're in the room. I was like, I'm in the room with a microphone and a live feed. I'm going to shut up.
Right.
And let these two gentlemen talk. And then they had a whole conversation about Gary Cole's work on Veep.
Right.
Do you watch Veep?
I don't watch Veep.
Oh, it's so funny. It is so funny. My husband and I watch it and weep doubled over. And Richard Schiff said this amazing thing about Gary Cole. He said, you know, if you watch Gary Cole on the show, what you will see is him being he's being serious. He's doing Shakespeare while all these other people are doing all this other stuff, which adds to the funny, and that's exactly what it is. Gary Cole is playing it completely straight, but the lines are so funny. Oh my gosh, that's about the funniest show there is. Anyway, it was.
Anyway, I think
great.
we're out of time.
Are we out of time? We're over. Somebody needs
over.
to pull a hook
Right,
and get me off.
exactly.
But anyway, it's Halloween.
It's Halloween.
Please take it easy
Thanks for
tonight.
joining Laurel and Hardy today.
Yes, take it easy tonight on yourself and on your kiddos. Take the picture and then let it go.
Right.
Whatever it is, it is. I'm going to try to do that myself. You're going to try to do that? We'll do the best we can.
Do the best we can.
And enjoy as much of it as you can. We're not doing a live show tomorrow. We're back next Wednesday. But the beta of our new website starts tomorrow, and we're releasing our new gift guide tomorrow. So you want to go to beta.autism-live.com and check it out. You'll click on the toy guide, but also look around, poke around, tell us if there are bugs, tell us if there are things that aren't working, things that you wish were a different way. I think you're gonna love it.
Okay.
So that starts tomorrow, beta.autism-live.com. Okay, we'll see you next Wednesday.
We'll see you.
Until then,
Yeah.
give your kiddos a hug from me.
And yourselves a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.
Happy Halloween.